talk about your vision for what to do for the last 2 years of high school actually sounds very similar to the programs that and the long-term plans that, say, Kirkwood Community College has with its regional centers and working with the University of Iowa and the surrounding school district for what they're building up at the Oakdale campus, trying to make the most of those 2 years, moving in that direction. And when you talk about
there's a difference.
How's it? What's
If you send a kid right now from Roosevelt to DMAC, we write a check to the Des Moines School District and then figure out how to get that kid to DMAC. If you actually incorporate and expand to a more formalized K-14 structure, then the cost that you're billing taxpayers is what you would pay to send them to DMAC in the first place. That means you save thousands and thousands of dollars, which now allows you to put that money on the front end and educate 3- and 4-year-olds at zero additional cost.
And then the other action, when you say that you would opt out of No Child Left Behind, Iowa has applied for waivers to be waived from those standards.
And they've said no.
And they've said no because there hasn't been enough educational reform progress.
Well, I had a chance to talk to Arn Duncan in December last year. I have been for years the education chair for the Iowa-Nebraska Conference of the ACP. I was at the Daisy Bates Summit last year. I actually got elected to chair one of the education caucuses by my colleagues from around the country. And Arn Duncan and I talked about Iowa. They're not giving us waivers. And even if they give us waivers, No Child Left Behind is a devastating piece of bad legislation.
Right. Even if it's just renamed Race to the Top.
Well, Race to the Top was actually different. It's still part of No Child Left Behind. You know, there is absolutely zero reason to participate in a piece of legislation that hurts children, hurts teachers, and hurts communities. So, yeah, I would opt out day one. My opponent...
and what's the mechanism for opting out? The one reason to follow even a bad law is that, well, it is the law. So
but a lot of federal law is only relevant to states because they send a check.
Right. You would stop accepting the check?
Well, the percentage of federal money we get. You know, Gretchen Tiegler, who used to be Branstad's chief of staff, we collaborated on a piece years ago where we talked about the money they were spending on construction because we voted it per district instead of voting it based on need. The amount of money we waste in education and so on and so forth dwarfs the amount of federal money we get. So if we eliminate things like the funding non-existent students, if we rein in the bureaucracy, it dwarfs the money linked to No Child Left Behind. And so what we save in terms of the quality of our schools, the quality of instruction, good teachers, more than compensates for the few dollars that we get in service to a really devastating piece of legislation. There's nothing good about No Child Left Behind, nothing redeeming, except it might in some instances help us pay a little more in white collar welfare. We hear so much about people who get food stamps. We never hear about white collar welfare and crony capitalism, which costs so much more. One of the reasons why I support tax discounting, April 2010, I'm driving through Hardee's at 3:47 a.m. A young lady worked there who had a daughter who she had to buy stuff for prom, an infant, and a second job she had to be at 8 a.m. Now we're going to tax her so we can give money to Orscon? Are you kidding me? You know, seriously. I still collect bottles and cans, take them back to the store. You're going to raise the gas tax on a single mom who works 3 jobs so you can vote money to contractors and developers recklessly and irresponsibly? One of the things I want to end is this urban sprawl mania. If a contractor says, I'm going to go pour concrete on your rich black soil, we not only subsidize it, but then we turn around and we put in roads and poles and sewers and bill the taxpayers. But if you go into dying rural Iowa and pull plywood off, and you go into decaying urban Iowa and you pull plywood off, they tax the heck out of you. That makes no sense. So when we start, like Johnson said in 1964, when we start eliminating bad stuff, we free up money to invest in education and health and other things. We need to make a full-throated investment in things like treatment on demand. We've got prison on demand. But it only applies to the poor. I heard a speaker last night at the Martin Luther King program in Des Moines. Reverend Bobby Young is a passionate advocate for justice and personally goes with young people to court. You had a young man who was affluent, who got busted with a half-pound of dope, his fourth offense, and he paid a $3,000 fine. You had a young urban kid who had never broken the law get sent to jail for a year for a joint by the same judge, which is going to cost taxpayers 30-something thousand, which is a lot more than sending people to treatment and fining them. So justice is essential, but injustice is crippling to our budget. We don't send people to jail for doing dope. We send people to jail for not being able to afford an attorney. That's what people go to jail for in Iowa. You know, I've got a 76-page file on a young man who's a member of a prominent family in Des Moines. 76 pages. I meant to bring it, but I wanted to make sure we would see the Rapids on time. He's never done real time, and yet there are young people who are doing serious time because they had a bad public defender, and the public defender happens to be in the same government bureaucracy as racing and gaming and bingos and raffles, which is not in the same bureaucracy as the lottery, which is in a different bureaucracy than criminal juvenile justice. We've got to change that.
So if you were elected governor, would you be lobbying the lawmakers to change the law on those? Would you be advocating for prosecutors to treat those cases differently? What would you be doing directly, and what would you be doing using your bully pulpit?
Well, governors have incredible powers, especially if they engage the people. In some areas, there's not a need for legislation. For example, when we look at corruption in local government, and state government, but even in local government, what you do is, and this is what I would do, I would call in the head of DCI. I would say in 30 days I need a plan that basically outlines how we're going to begin initiating forensic audits of government. I served on the Des Moines School Board. We had a contractor that was billing us for time that didn't exist, that was billing us for cell phones and bottled waters. They had a $20 million contract. My first meeting on the board, my first real meeting on the board, by my first real meeting, because I'm not counting the swearing in meeting, they had a meeting of the oversight committee. Every single person resigned off of that board at the end of the meeting. We have the video. Now, not a single member of the major media would run this story, nor would they run the evidence we had. So I sent it out to like 20, 30,000 people because I had a massive email list, and we printed 75,000 copies of the paper, so the story got out. But the fact is that there is so much corruption that is pervasive in our governments that's identifiable, that makes CTEC look like a scout meeting, that is ignored, just like justice is ignored. We know it, we ignore it, we don't report it, we don't talk about it. But I would be able to directly impact the examination of that and consequences and repair, and also a governor who goes out and says to a county attorney, explain to me how this person with a half-pound dope paid a $3,000 fine, and this person got jail. Explain to me, judge, how this person got a $3,000 fine, and this person got jail. When I got, the day before I got elected to the Des Moines School Board, a local radio show host made a list of the things I said I'd get done. On July 9, 2003, July 3rd, 2009, I went back on that show and everything got checked off. I got pounded in the media, but you know what? I held public hearings. I surveyed our staff. I did a TV show. I went on Radio Weekly. I built a well of support amongst the people, and the people drove my fellow board members into reversing things they said publicly, and we got those things passed. In fact, I sat down with the registered editorial board of Mark Ward and said, you know what, we need to go door to door and bring our dropouts back. Mark Ward laughed and said, I've never knocked on a door. Says a dumb idea. The week after I left the school board, my fellow school board members and staff went knocking door to door to bring dropouts back. And also, I have a strong history of being able to pull together folks bipartisanly.